Alrighty, welcome everybody. Welcome to the special episode of Brownsville Tech Live. And in the house tonight, it is my distinct honor and pleasure to have our superintendent for Brownsville ISD in the house, Dr. Jesus H. Chavez. Dr. Chavez, welcome to our show for the first time.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Pleasure being with you.
Not a problem. For those of you out there, we are currently broadcasting on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Rumble. And for those of you that don't catch the show live, you'll also be able to watch it on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and with clips on Instagram. So you'll be able to watch it across all our 12 social media platforms. Once again, don't forget to subscribe to Brownsville Tech Live on YouTube. When you do that, you'll be able to get notifications of this channel. And for those of you still on Facebook, be sure to subscribe or follow Brownsville Tech Live and 956 Live. So once again, it is my pleasure to have Dr. Chavez in the house. And we are here to talk about the November 4th bond election. So Dr. Chavez, could you give us a little bit of intro about who you are, where you're from, what you've done, and what you currently do? And then we'll get started with the topic.
Well, let me first of all say that I was born and raised in Brownsville. If you know where the old courthouse was, I actually was born about 5-6 blocks away from that. Now, when I was very, very young, and here I'm talking about 3-4 years old, we actually moved to the southmost area on 26th Street. So that's where I was raised. I got a chance to go to Cromack Elementary School. Back then, you'll remember, we started in first grade. We didn't have kindergarten. So first grade, all the way to fifth grade there, transferred over to Falk as an intermediate student, was there for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Actually, I was one of those people that from there went on to what was then known as Brownsville High School. That's when we were all together, one high school. The interesting thing about that, I don't know that I've ever seen a high school that was that large, because literally we had about 5,300 students that attended this school. A split shift. And people sometimes ask, well, what do you mean by split shift? Well, we actually went to school in the morning. If you were a junior or senior, you went from 7:30 to 12:30, and then we had an afternoon session, which I went to twice, right, to 2 years in a row, my freshman and my sophomore year, because there you started school at 1 p.m. and went to 6 p.m. We were so short on having a new high school, if you will, But when they opened up Porter High School, then I got a chance to move to Porter High School, and I graduated in 1976, the very first graduating class from Porter High School. I
Oh,
went on
wow.
to college here at TSC, but I'm actually a UT graduate. I have both my bachelor's and my doctorate degree, from UT Austin, and very proud of that as well.
Yeah. Well, you were probably at Porter when Tony Ortiz was principal, right?
Yes, sir. Well,
Yeah.
and he moved over from Brownsville High School, right? And he actually was our assistant principal there, so we knew him. And of course, they selected him to come over and open up the new school, brand new. And now this is people are going to be surprised at this, right? This was almost 50 years ago. That yes, we opened up the school and we were there as juniors. And of course, a year after we graduated. But we were very happy to be the very first class and to set the standards, if you will, set up all the programming. We had a great time there. We had a great time
Yeah.
there.
Well, you probably went to school just like I did when we didn't have air conditioning in elementary school. They
That's
used to have,
correct. As a matter of fact, one of the things if you got to the classroom early with a teacher, that's one of the fun things, right? You got to open the windows up and make sure that they stayed up. And of course, we did that not only at the elementary school, but we actually did that when we went over to Falk because Falk didn't have air conditioning. The only school in our district that had air conditioning was Brownsville High School.
right,
And of course, we moved over, and yes, we had air conditioning. But I actually started my career as a teacher here in Brownsville as well, and I went over to Reynaldo Garza Elementary School. I was a third grade teacher for a number of years. But the reason I'm mentioning that is back when I first became a teacher, we still did not have air conditioning at the elementary level.
right.
It wasn't until about 4 years later that, yes, they air conditioned those schools. So it's been a while, right?
Yeah,
Nowadays, I mean, that's a standard thing. Air
right.
conditioning, yes, we need it. Of course, we have a number of issues related to that, which I'll talk about here later as we get into the bond election materials.
Right. Well, one of the things is I did get an opportunity to review the interview that you had with Captain Bob last month, and you jiggled my memory.
Yes.
You had mentioned about the windows and that the fact that they were not even glass, they were like a plexiglass. And I thought about it and I said, "Oh yeah, I remember that. In Chromac we had those. They were
Yes.
not made out of glass.
Yes.
They were made out of
And we still have
plastic."
them. We still have them.
Yeah, yeah, it just jiggled my memory. I mean, lots of things, that we take for
Yeah.
granted today, right? So, Dr. Chavez, talk to us a little bit about, what's upcoming. Obviously, there is an election coming up. There's two propositions. There's a Proposition A and a Proposition B. And could you kind of give us a rundown of what those propositions are and what they plan to fund and what the urgency is with
Sure, sure.
regards to those two
Yeah.
propositions, sir?
Yeah. Well, before I get into that, let me go back as to how we got here, right? Here, if you think about it, we actually put a committee of folks together. Now, these were citizens, these were committee members that, some of them were our parents, some of them were our business people. People were invited, and anybody could sign up. We actually had a little over 100 people sign up, and about 60, 70 of them actually participated right throughout the entire process and were with us to the very end. And I say the very end because they did their work beginning in last November. So about a year ago, they started their work. They worked in November, they had meetings in December, they had a number of meetings in January as well. If you go back to take a look at our board meetings, they actually reported to the board on January the 28th. So they not only gave an oral report, but they gave the actual report of their study, what they were recommending, what they had gone to see. And they literally visited all 50 campuses. And of course, in addition to that, they also went out and visited all of the central office facilities. And really here I'm talking about, they went over to the transportation area, to our maintenance area, to all the other facilities that we had. And really their task, their job was to say, okay, we have some needs. take a look at those, and then identify what you believe as citizens the needs are in our district. Now, from that, of course, they published a report, and that report basically said, yes, we need to identify 39 schools that we have specific propositions for on work that needs to be done. And yes, we suggest that you put out a bond election, which is Proposition A, right? That deals with the schools. So if you go back to take a look at that information, it's $389 million. It addresses the 39 schools. In addition to that, there's about 6 other areas. For example, one of those is a new career and technology center. And just to give a little bit of history of that, remember, we have been holding that kind of programming over at Cummings, but Cummings is a regular build school a long time ago, and it has regular classrooms. It doesn't have career and technology classrooms, if you will. Think of the welding as an example. I mean, for welding, you need the tall rooms, you need the space in between
Correct.
the students. And so they identified those kinds of needs and said, yes, we need to build a new career and technology education center. So that's one of the other things that's in the initial Proposition A that people are going to consider. Now, remember, all of those items are in the one proposition, and people get to vote yes or no, per proposition. So that's A. Let me talk a little bit about B. B relates to a performing arts center. And that's another thing that the committee identified and said, yes, we'd like to propose that, but that needs to be proposed separately. And of course, the state requires that, right? That it be under a different proposition, which is under our vote here, it would be Proposition B. So citizens have the opportunity to vote either for it or against it. Proposition B, Performing Arts Center. Now, we say Performing Arts Center, but it also includes 3 large school rooms. Now think about it. Some of us were in band, some of us were in choir, some of us were in acting. Maybe the one act play that people do, for on a competitive basis. So what this facility would do is not only have the space for the performance piece, but the board wanted to be sure that it was a larger facility. So it would also have the 1,800 seats for people. So you would
Right.
bring in a good large group to see the performances that our schools. And now, when I say schools, remember that this is dedicated and will be used, if approved by the citizens, by elementary school students, by middle school students, by high school students. One of the other things related to this topic is that the board wanted to be sure that, yes, we would open it up as well a few times a year to community groups, right? And now these are nonprofit performance groups, and or also maybe bring in some larger performance groups. For example, I'm thinking of the Austin Symphony, right? And so,
Right.
yes, I mean, the board would give us that authority to invite the Austin Symphony for them to come and perform, and afford our citizens the opportunity to come watch those kinds of shows as well.
Well, one of the complaints, I guess, that you hear out there, and I'll give you an opportunity to kind of to respond to that, was
Sure.
that some people say that back in 2017, there was also a bond or some kind of vote. I don't know if it was a bond or a vote or what it was for a performance center. And
Yeah.
apparently that was never built. Now, I have no idea why it wasn't built. Are we talking the same type of performance center that was proposed back then versus what we're talking about now? Or are we talking a totally different design concept altogether? Could you kind of give us an idea as to
Sure.
why, or do you have any insight as to why maybe it was postponed being built back then? I mean, I know we went
Yeah.
through COVID and all kinds of
No,
stuff.
I'm happy to talk about that.
Yeah, because it's been
I'm happy to
talked
talk about
about
that.
over and over again. Go ahead,
Well,
sir.
let me give you some history first of all. This was a proposal that was voted on by the Board of Trustees. It wasn't a public vote, first of all.
Ah,
So let me begin
okay.
with that. Secondly, the thing that was voted on, the idea had been that we were going to do that over a good number of years.
Okay.
And when we say that, the other part that was going to come along with this was going to be the state aid, the state support, right? And along with that, the ability for school districts to use some of their funds to pay back, right? Because this has to be paid back. Now, I say paid back from the stance of one of the other changes that has come along the way is that the state of Texas required a tax reduction. Well, if we, the district, had the intent to use a portion of the tax rate to pay for these projects, and then the state tells you, no, you don't have any more tax. You can't go out and charge these taxes to the citizens because we, the state, are requiring you by law to bring the tax rate down. And here, let me just talk about the general tax rate in general, and that's what we're talking about, right? With regards to the tax was required to be brought down. I actually started in education when the tax rate for homes could be up to $1.50 for the operation of the district, and then on top of that, you could have the bond rate as well. Now, the state over time has actually giving school districts additional assistance and help, state aid, if you will. But one of the things that they require when they do that is that you lower the tax. Well, that is exactly what happened here. The state was giving additional aid to our school district, but the requirement was you have to lower the rate of your tax. And when they asked the district to do that, the district then lost the ability to use those funds for building. Now,
Okay.
had the district talked about a performing arts center? Yes, they had talked about that, and that was within the plans. But then the state took away the money, so now you couldn't move forward with that, right? Because we didn't have the dollars anymore. The state took away the dollars. We didn't have the funds then to pay for the things that we wanted to do. And actually, I mean, there's a listing of the things that were proposed, and there are a number of things that were eliminated because of the state law. So that's what has happened there. Here, of course, what the citizens that studied what our needs were, remember, they wanted to be sure that the board focused on the school needs. Again, hence Proposition A and the $385 million. But the citizens also wanted us to take a look at a performing arts center. Now, keep in mind here that for both of these, where does the decision rest? Well, the decision rests with the citizens, with an election for them to either vote for and against. And of course, that's what we're looking for. However, for me, it's the obligation is to give information on how the funds are going to be used, what work it's going to get done, and how it impacts our students. So, can I tell you about? Yes, we have ceilings that roofs and ceilings that let water through. We do a great number of them. Let me give you one example of that. Last year, I mean, I got called early on, but let's say 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. Dr. Chavez, we're not going to be able to use these classrooms over here at Rivera. I said, why not? Well, because, sir, the water's come through, and we have 6 rooms that are completely wet. The wall and stuff, the paper on the wall has fallen. There's water on the floor. And for these 6 rooms, we cannot use them. Well, we had to find another place for our students. And so now you put students in the library, use the cafeteria for part of the day. You put them on stage for, those kinds of things. We need to find a space to continue the teaching because these 6 rooms could not be used. Well, that's the kind of condition we have with our roofs, that they're very old. Yes, if it rains, then some areas are going to get wet. We have to move students around. Maybe we can't use that room. So that's what the committee studied. And again, here I'm talking about roofs, air conditioning systems. We have a very similar situation, very hot, particularly as you think of we start school at the end of August, September, October. I mean, it's still pretty warm. When you have air conditioners go out, then it's very uncomfortable. So the citizens wanted to address some of these basic needs, which hence the proposal that they gave to us.
Yeah. Well, definitely, when it comes to air conditioning, like like I mentioned, you and I went to school and we didn't have air conditioning. uh, you know, but obviously air conditioning is a necessity. Now, I know that some people seem to think that the AC replacement cost is similar to residential. I can tell you that it's not, right? I mean,
No.
the average AC replacement in a home today is about $7,000, right? And that's just a home, right? I can only
No.
imagine what the commercial uh, replacement could be. But one of the couple of people have asked, well, why don't we use some of the AC units that are part of some of the older schools? Is that an option, or is it best to just replace it? Because are we talking complete replacement, or are we talking, bits and pieces when it comes to AC repair?
Well, here the main focus is with complete AC repair, and I shouldn't say repair, replacement, right? Because
Right,
we're taking a look at what is the condition of air conditioners, and when you talk about air conditioners are 14 years old, 18 years old. They're just beyond where they're working properly. When they do break down, we fix them. Our maintenance department, I'm gonna tell you, is very good about if we have some old air conditioners here, but the pump is still working and we need a pump over here, then we do make those changes. And of course, we're going to continue to address that. Remember that let's assume the bond election passes. Well, we've got a 5-year plan for the work to be done. I mean, it's not going to be
okay,
done overnight. Hence, again, the need. Yeah, we're still going to have to address some of these areas that are not are not done the first year because they're supposed to be done the second year, the third year, the fourth year, the fifth year, because it's a 5-year situation. We can talk about why a 5-year situation here in a minute as well, because that's important to taxpayers because we wanted to consider their situation as well. So here, in my mind, you know, the replacement is the best thing to do, but of course that needs the citizens' approval.
right. Now, how is the decision made who gets their stuff fixed first? The last thing is,
Yeah.
we want to hear is that somebody on Southmost is still sweating up a storm, and somebody over here at the richer part of town isn't. How
Yeah.
how is that decision made, sir?
Sure.
Yeah,
Well, remember that. Let me ask this question and then give you the answer, right? So who supports the bond election? And as you think about support for the bond election, the who wants work done at their school too, right? And so when you think of who votes, I mean, it's going to be people from throughout the community.
right,
Now, yes, we took a look at what are the greater needs as it relates to air conditioning, but we also have great needs with roofing. And so it may
okay,
be that, over at this particular area, air conditioning needs to be done the first year, but as it relates to roofing, no, it's this other area that needs the roofing first. You see what I'm saying? So
yeah,
so we had to take a look at what are the conditions of the various projects, various schools, and we've got to address a number of issues like air conditioning in some areas, and those are spaced out 1 year, 2 years, 3 years later, 4 years later, 5 years later, and we've had to do that. Remember, and let me, and that's probably a good time to talk about this too. Why 5 years? Well, keep in mind that one of the things that the citizens wanted to do was as you think of borrowing the bond monies, because that's what we do. Think of bond funds as a home mortgage, right?
right,
When you buy a home, you borrow the money, and you're going to pay it out over 30 years. So you make a payment every month, right? The school districts operate in the same way, except that again, what we're talking about buying is we're going to buy bonds, and I say buy. We're going to sell the bonds. People are going to buy them. We get the money.
right,
Well, we did it over 5 years to keep the tax rate lower because you don't have to spend money on all of it the first year. You only spend on the bonds that you sell the first year. And here to talk about the tax rate, remember the last 2 years we've been at 24 cents. What are we going to this year? Because we're paying off the old bonds, we're going down to 4 cents. Well, this bond election has been proposed. Let's say, okay, yes, it's approved. What's a tax increase? Well, it's going to go from 4 cents to 9 cents next year. What was it this past year? 24. Well, it's going down to 9 cents with the new bonds. Now, yes, it'll continue to go up on a yearly basis because remember, the next year we sell more bonds. So now we go to 13 cents. And so it'll flow that way. But the other good thing, and really this is probably a good time for me to encourage people to go out and vote because there's 17 state propositions there too that you will get to decide on yes or no, we want to vote for these things. But I'll tell you, there are two of them, two propositions that specifically give each homeowner, only the homeowner, tax relief on the taxes they pay us as a district. That amount, right now, people get relief on $100,000 value of their home. They don't pay taxes on the first $100,000. Well, that amount can go and will go because I mean everybody votes yes on this one, right? Do you want a $40,000 tax relief on your home? We all want the tax relief on our home. So people would vote yes for $40,000. If you're 65 and older, the vote would be, do you want to vote and give 65 and older people a $60,000 relief on their property, taxes to the school district? The answer is going to be yes. I want to give my grandma or my grandpa that relief, or somebody who's 65 and older and say, yeah, I want to vote for that. So literally for the 65 and older, they're going to get $100,000 relief on their property taxes to us.
But is that
so? And I mentioned that because that impacts then the bond amount that people have to pay, which is one of the reasons we're able to say it's going to be a lower amount even at the end of 5 years.
Yeah. Now, honestly, I can't wait till I'm 65, but the concern that I have by the time I get there is that my house may be valued more than the limit. I think there's a limit right now, right? It's 180,000. You pay no taxes. Anything above that you do. Is that true?
Sure. Well, no. Here, and what you may be referring to we actually use the example of the average price home to show to people on the average price number. You may have a home that's more expensive and goes beyond this, or you may have a home that is below this amount. But let's talk about the average homeowner, who has got an average priced home, and right now, the amount of relief is 100,000. Right? That's what I said a while ago.
Right.
That's what it is currently is in law. Well,
right.
The average price homeowner has a home of 184. So they've been paying taxes on $84,000 because they get $100,000 relief. And that's where I'm saying that the relief is going to go from 100 to 140.
Right.
So the average homeowner now is going to get charged taxes on only the 44,000. But if you're 65 and older, remember that's going to go all the way up to 200 relief. 100 that's current, 40 plus a 60 for older folks. They're going to get a $200,000. So if somebody owns an average home next year, and these two things are going to pass, then they're going to get zero on their taxes for us, 65 and older.
Okay.
Their home is valued at $185,000. What's the tax relief they get? $200,000 home. You see what I'm saying? So they don't pay any taxes if you're 65 and older.
So that's assuming if that passes, right?
Yes. Well, but here let me say, how did we get to $100,000 tax relief? Voters passed it. Every time, and they didn't start with 100. They started with a lower amount. But we've had a few of these elections that people vote. Do you want tax relief? And who doesn't want to get tax relief on their property taxes? We all do. And that's why I'm saying that these two propositions are going to pass. Why? Because that's historically what is done, and they pass by a high majority of voters. There's a few that maybe haven't read the information. They vote no on everything, and so they vote no on these, right? But I'm going to say that, the other 70, 80% of people, they vote, hey, I want tax relief. Give it to me. That's why these two are going to pass.
Right. Well, one of the things that I know you mentioned, I know that you mentioned in the interview you did last month with Captain Bob, is that you mentioned about the tiered increases throughout the years. What is the
Yes.
maximum amount that it could go up? Is it 28% or is it greater than 28%? Because there's a lot of people out there floating
Sure.
that it's going to be extremely high. So can you tell us, is there a cap on how high it will increase?
Now, are you talking about the tax rate, or are you talking about home value? I'm not sure I'm following.
You're talking about the tax rate.
Let,
You
let,
said
let, let,
4%.
let me talk about the tax rate. So
Okay.
the tax rate is set by the board, and what the tax rate has to do is it has to pay back the debt, right? It has to pay back the
Right.
bonds over the 30-year period. Now remember, we've had 19 years since the last bond election, and everything got paid in 19 years. Now I'm not guaranteeing that, right? I'm saying that that's a consideration the district will have to take in the future. Do we want to pay early, and will we have the ability to do that? But here, what we have used is to say, okay, we've got a 30-year bonds that we're going to have to be paying. Yeah, there are going to be taxes on that, but the maximum tax that we have is, 24 cents is the high for the 385 million, and then the other 4.6, 4.7 is the Performing Arts Center. So that would be the high, right? The amounts, but remember that the value of the home, if your value of the home goes higher than what we've projected as an average, then actually, because the amount of taxes is going to be set at 28 cents, it's not going to continue to get higher than that. That is set
Okay.
at that amount, and with higher property values, that rate actually starts coming down because people are paying, for the higher rate, for the higher pricing on their home. So it's not a situation where the amount of pennies is going to increase, let's say from the 28.6 to higher amount.
Okay.
That'll stay there. My thinking is that, well, with the value of homes going up, the possibility is that rate will go down from the 28.6 cents.
Mm-hmm. Because, that is a concern.
That's the way that works, right, from a finance
Right.
standpoint.
Yeah. Because, the concern is people, you hear people every day complain about their values have gone up, their property taxes have gone up. It seems over the last several years, even the amount you pay to rent an apartment has gone up.
Yeah.
Right. And there's lots of factors. There's lots of
Look
factors.
at this way. So let me describe it this way. As your home value goes up in value, right? Then we the district can lower the rate that we charge to you on the bond money that we have to pay back. Because why? Well, because now we're calculating. I mean, we're not going to calculate 28 cents on a higher amount. We're calculating on an average amount right now. And if that number goes up higher, then that means the taxes go lower. That's the opposite effect, right? And again, you got to think through this, right, from the standpoint. Well, my value is going up, yeah, but that means that the tax would collect more, and we don't want to collect more because we've already set the payments that we're going to be making.
Right. Well, what do you say to those individuals that, well, first of all, let me start off by saying that, you guys have closed several campuses, right? There's been several schools that have been closed. They're vacant.
Yes.
In fact, you sold one to UTRGV maybe a while ago. But there's an argument out there that says, well, they closed all these campuses. They've got all these assets. Why don't we just value what all of that is and find out if it hits 460 million, sell them all, and we don't have to do any bonds. I mean, is that realistic? I mean, uh,
Well,
you want to,
let me say first of all, and let me begin with this. If there's any company out there, if there's any person out there that would like to look at buying some of our properties, give me a call. We'll
okay,
get together. We're prepared to move forward and sell, our schools, sell our lots, and so you'll be seeing some sales that, I mean, right now we've got three out for sale right now, and we're going to be adding more because yes, we do have some properties that I don't anticipate, and we got to take a look at this. You don't want to sell something that you're going to need maybe 5 or 10 years down the road, right?
right,
And so and we've done that. And the district has done a really good job of keeping properties that are going to be used. But let me say that because you talked about school closings too, and so let me talk about school closings. First of all, let me say that the need to close schools relates to how the enrollment has come down over the years. The other thing I usually mention when I talk about this to people is, well, let me think about my family and 26th Street where I lived. My mom and dad, they had 6 children. There were six brothers and sisters. Next door neighbor, they had 7 brothers and sisters. But I had a family down the road that they had 13 in the family besides mom and dad. Now I mentioned those high numbers, 6, 7, and 13, because how many children do you think I had? I had 2.
right,
If you go talk to families that are married right now, that are young families, you ask them, how many children do you have? I don't have any yet. I've got 1, I've got 2. And really, my
right,
point is that we're having a lot less children than we were having back then, right? So
right,
that's one of the reasons that our enrollment has come down. Do we have some students that if we didn't have charter schools would be coming here with us? Oh, definitely, right? But the state increased that, and so we do have some students that go to charter schools. So here, why are we talking about all this? We're talking about all this because the question becomes, do we keep schools that have 200, 250 kids open when they were built for 900 or 1,000 students? And the answer to that is no, you can't continue that. Let me also say this. The closing of schools has nothing to do with the bond election. If the bond election passes, we're going to have some school closings in the future. If the bond election fails, we're going to have some school closures in the future. That's an independent situation because we're losing students. Now, the other thing, and some of the folks out there have heard me say this. Do I anticipate that we're going to continue to go down in enrollment over the next 10 years? No. I mean, take a look around Brownsville, and you all drive around and know the areas too. Do we have new neighborhoods in Brownsville? Yeah, we've
yes,
got some. Do we have new apartments in Brownsville? Yes, we've got some. So new homes, new apartments, what does that mean? Well, we're going to have more people. Are we continuing to grow as a city? Yes. Now we do have a boundary, and so I know that once you get to a part of the boundary where we are, and then the next one is Los Fresnos, then yes, those homes in Los Fresnos. Although again, we take students from wherever they like to come, we take them, and our programs are open to them. But really what I'm saying here is that we are going to lose students, let's say over the next 5 or 6, 7 years, but then it's going to stop, and then we're going to start growing again.
right,
That's the way Brownsville is going. So, I do anticipate that these schools that were identified, the 39 schools, we're going to have for a long time, and we need them. We're going to need
right,
them, as we get more students down the road.
right. So it's not necessarily uh, im impractical to think that some of these schools that have closed may be reopened down the road based on demand, right? I mean, I agree with you. It makes no sense to have an entire school built for 1,000 kids and only there's 100 there, but yet you still have to keep the lights on, keep the personnel working. I mean, I get it. It makes no sense. I mean, it's the same thing with us, right? Here at our individual homes. we're constantly turning off the lights in the rooms we're not in, right? So I get it.
Yeah.
It makes sense. But I mean, I guess the question is, if let's say hypothetically, you rounded up all the schools that you closed and you had somebody pop in tomorrow and tell you, I want to buy them all, would we reach the 460 million? I don't know. Do you
No,
have that number?
no, no. And here part of it is part of it is, I don't know that people are going to want to pay. Think about it from this perspective. If you think of a new school and needing to build that new school versus you're buying an old school, and yes, the lot has value for me, but the old school doesn't have value, right? So a new
Right.
school may cost you, let's say, $45 million, and that's what you would need for a new school. But this old school over here, I'm going to demolish the building and I'm going to use the land. So I'm only willing to pay $16 million. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
It's not a situation where you're going to get the 45 or $65 million for the school. You're going to get that very small amount because
Right.
for the most part, particularly if it's an older building, it's going to be demolished. So that doesn't have the value for whoever's purchasing it. What they're going to purchase is they're going to purchase the plot. They're going to purchase that lot and rebuild on it.
Okay. All right.
So no, there's no way you could replace the 460 million or the $385 million with the sale of
Right.
homes.
Right. I mean, that's some thought process that some people
Yeah.
float out there, right? And
Let me
and
say this though, because I know this is something that our board is very supportive of, and that is if we sell a property, we want to use those dollars to maintain, fix, or upgrade a property that we currently have.
yeah.
Let me give you the example. Here we sold to the city Cummings, right?
Right.
And we are replacing the rooms. We're selling Cummings. That's where we have the Career and Technology Education Center right now.
Right.
So the board said those $16, reinvest them in career and technology building. That's why when you look at Proposition A, it has Part B for the Career and Technology Education Center, because we already have, and actually it's $17 million because we also got $1.2 million from UTRGV when we sold them that plot of land that they're going to be using for a fine arts area. What I'm telling you is that right now, when we have sold property, the board has said we want to reinvest those dollars in a new building or in a new addition to a building. And that would continue in my mind.
So is the 17 million that you guys made from the city for the sale of Cummings, does that still exist? Is it being held somewhere?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we anytime you sell property and you've got, a few $1 million, you put it in the bank, you invest it, make a little bit of interest on it, but it's been dedicated again to the Career and Technology Education Center.
Right. And I've heard also, through the grapevine, you hear this over and over again by some people that they start talking about something called ESSER funds, and then they ask about the Elon Musk donations. Sir, can you kind of elaborate as to what those were, where those went?
Sure.
Because there's a lot of confusion out there. I mean, we know for a fact, right, that when it came to the city, Elon Musk donated like 8 million. No, it was $10 million, right? And then he pulled back 8 million. So the city only got 2 million out of the 2 million out of the 10 million, right? What are these ESSER funds that I hear people talk about? They want to know where that went. The Elon Musk donations. Do you have any ideas to what that all is about? Could you elaborate?
Yeah, I'll give you a brief overview, but I'm not going to be able to give you the detail. You know,
That's
this was
fine.
before I got here and before I came back into public education. Here, with regards to ESSER funds were really very specific about where those dollars went by the federal government.
Ah,
Now, yes, you know, we use some of those funds. You know, you think of computers, you know, is one of the things that's coming to my mind. In addition to that, you know, yes, there were some fixes that needed to happen in some of the schools, so some monies were dedicated to some of those fixes as well. So monies have been used really well by the district. Now, remember, this was before I got here, and you know, all of that work was pretty much done at that point. Here with you know, the Musk funds, I really couldn't speak to them. I mean, I haven't looked at that information. That was before I got here, but we're happy to, you know, put that on the website and give you all whatever you all need as far as records that we have around that.
okay. Yeah, because you hear about that, and people ask those questions. And honestly, I don't know what those were. I mean, I know that Musk had donated monies, had pulled some monies from the city,
Mm.
and
We need some more donations, by the way.
yeah,
I haven't gotten any while I've been here, so
believe
that's
me,
one of the reasons that I'm saying that, right? That if there are dollars out there that we can get, you know, from this particular company and or others, you know, we certainly are open to that. And of course, it all goes to our students. And
believe me,
that's
you're
the
not
main
the
thing.
only
It
one
all goes to
that's
our
looking
students.
for donations. It takes a lot of money to run 5 podcast shows, trust me, you know.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, that's fair. I mean, I understand that that was way before your time. But yeah, I mean, obviously those are legitimate questions that are asked over and over again, right?
Sure.
And people obviously are asking the questions now because of the fact that you know there's a bond, uh, that's
Sure.
about
No, we'll
about
put
to
some
happen.
information out on both of those areas.
Yeah. Now, back to the enrollment or the lowering of enrollment. Um,
Yes.
you mentioned that obviously, population, people having kids. I agree with you. It's expensive to have kids today. I only have one child, right? Um, I agree with you there. And with regards to the charter schools, I'll be honest with you. I experienced the charter school thing with my daughter. My daughter went to private school for elementary school. I'll be honest, we did have her in private school. And anybody out there who has a problem with it, too bad. That's what it was. All right. And then from there, one of the things that we discovered with private schools is that they were limited in the amount of programs. Extracurricular activities weren't always available. So we moved her to IDEA, which was a private school. I mean, a public charter school,
Charter.
right? Yeah. Well, of course, she attended there for 2 years. I personally didn't like it. I thought that the structure was too rigid. Plus, they didn't have extracurricular activities. They didn't have band. They didn't have choir, right? Didn't have any of that. So we moved over to public school where they had those things. And I think it's important for people to realize that there are differences between the offerings of a private school, a public school, and a charter school. You're not going to get band. You're not going to get choir. You're lucky if you get sports, right? So I believe eventually, and this is my own opinion, that you're going to see a return back of those kids, right? Because unless the charter schools start providing those extracurricular activities, the kids are not going to have that exposure, right? But I personally didn't like it. Okay, that's just my own personal experience, right, with regards to the charter schools. Because the thought out there is that BISD has lost all their kids to charter schools. And what you're telling me is that's not necessarily the case. That there's shifts in the amount of kids, today versus how it was back in the old days. I mean, there are families in Brownsville that had 12 kids or more,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
I get it. I mean, I get what you're saying. Now, with regards in your interview with Captain Bob last month, you tried to explain a little bit about charter schools. Don't charter schools receive state money just like public schools do?
Well, actually, yes, I receive state monies, but it's a little bit different from the
Okay,
standpoint of while they don't have while they don't have a taxing entity,
correct.
they get really good sufficient dollars right from the state. Now their donations and contributions and other things that they look at as we do as well, right? With regards to additional help in our schools. However, here they receive the state aid directly, as opposed to having the tax rate that we do. Now they get the state average for a few districts. That's yes less than they're getting, but for the other school districts, that's more than they're getting, right? Because they actually get that average. Versus there's some school districts that are below the average, some districts that are above the average, and that's just information so you know. Here, let me say, and let me go back to one of the rich things with regards to students and what activities they take. Here, if you look at our elementary schools, we have after-school programming, and we have not only learning that takes place, but a lot of active exercises and active things that they do to keep them in good shape, right, as students. So we're able to do that in a very extensive way with our elementary schools. Yes, we're very fortunate that as you think of middle schools and high schools, there are not only a lot of different athletic activities that can participate, there are also a lot of clubs. And so, yes, we have a variety of activities. One of the things that I'd like to talk about as it relates to what we offer as a school district is when you think of our development, our personal development, first of all, for our students, yes, it's about the education piece, right? We want great education. If you talk to students that I go talk to in the classrooms, I say, hey, you got to make your A's and B's. Make your A's and B's, because I want all of you to not only finish high school, I want all of you to go to college or go to a training program after high school, if that's what you want to do, or join the services, right? So that's what I talk to them about. But the other two things that I want to mention is we have great fine arts programming as well. Whether you think of music, band, choir, I mean, a lot of fine arts in addition to not only the singing, the playing, but the actual drawing and painting and all those things. And of course, we have a great athletics department. Now, I mention all these things because, yes, I think we here in Brownsville have a tremendous level of programming in all three areas. So you're welcome to come on over. We'd love to work with all of your students. And remember, we start at pre-K, pre-K 3, pre-K 4 years old, all the way to 12th grade. By the way, we also have, for students that are maybe left and didn't finish high school, we want them to come back and finish high school. For students who need a job and want to get some training, we offer at CAB programming for adults as well, that they can receive training and then get a great job. So we do a lot for the entire community. Yes, we're about pre-K all the way to 12th, but we also work with adults as well. There's education for adults in our school district.
Okay. All right. Well, I just wanted to get clarification on the enrollment figures because, one of the questions that gets floated around is, why are we spending all this money when we've got less kids today than we did back 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and then they mention about the charter schools, and I'm there shaking my head. I said, you people are talking out of your, excuse the word I'm going to use, they're talking out of their ass, right? Because the reality of it, I've experienced the charter school concept, and I didn't like it. So, you know, uh, I just want to make sure that, there's clarity when it comes to that. And there's definitely no band, no choir, no sports for the most part at a charter school. Very limited, very limited. And of course, the fine arts, the fine arts. I know that we have a couple of facilities that have been built, but they are inadequate. They're still inadequate, right? The Buchanan Center is too small. The TSE Performance Center is too small. It's no secret that I'm one of the biggest advocates for a multi-venue facility somewhere in this county because I believe that we need it, right? I believe that UTV RGV graduates should not have to travel to Edinburgh for their graduation ceremonies, right? So, so the idea that we're okay with this facility or the current facilities, I can tell you that's not forward thinking. So, with regards to,
Well, thank you for saying that.
With regards to Sam Stadium, and I know that in
Yes.
your interview last month, it was advocated to enclose Sam Stadium. Personally, I'm not in favor of that, and I'll tell you why. Number one, we know that Sam Stadium, while it's a great stadium, we learned during our high school football playoffs that we couldn't even park, right? We couldn't find parking, and that's always been a problem, especially in graduations, right? So we've got those issues. I still believe, personally, that eventually we will have to look at some other venue facility down the road, not just for BISD, but in general, right? Because as great as Sam Stadium is, it is a 70-year-old relic, right? With inadequate parking. So, there's talk about soccer, and I know that you guys did upgrades recently to accommodate soccer.
Yes.
But if we're serious about bringing a professional soccer league, Sam Stadium, it's not going to cut it, right? And so we need to look elsewhere, right? So I'm not agreeing with the idea of making any more further modifications to Sam Stadium because anything greater than what we have today would require parking. We just don't have parking, So I just wanted to throw that out. You don't have to give an opinion, but I just wanted to throw that out because that is something that's
Well,
floated
let me
over.
say though, as it relates just to Sam State, I mean, one of the commitments that we have as a district is, of course, to maintain the facility, maintain it
Right.
from the standpoint of, yes, we want our schools to use it, we want our athletes to use it. And by the way, when you think of Sam Stadium, you think of the football piece, right? But
Right.
really beyond that, I mean, we had our elementary programming here for special education just a week ago, and we have two of those. And really, what I'm telling you is that Sam Stadium is used by all of our students: elementary students, middle school students, high school students, and of course, for us, it's about maintaining a good facility that can be used by all students. And now, yes, will we open it up to other activities, other venues? We're happy to. Keep in mind, though, that one of the requirements that we have for owning Sam Stadium is that it's got to be kept in the same condition that it is right now. In other words, I don't know that we could go there and say, oh, we want to build additional seats over on the east side, right?
Right.
What we have right now, it's about maintaining, and by the way, it's a gorgeous facility, right? From the
Oh, it
standpoint
is.
of,
And
I mean, well, one can't believe that it was built so long ago, but it's still a gorgeous facility.
right. And I don't want anybody out there to misinterpret when I say 70-year-old relic. Okay. I don't want people to think that I'm knocking it by any means. But this
No.
idea that we can enclose Sam Stadium,
No, that we
that's
cannot do.
just that you can't do. And even if you
No.
could, it doesn't make any sense, right? So I definitely think eventually, though, as a community, not just the district, the city, the county. We need to look at some kind of multi-venue facility, because it is a bad thing that our UTV, RGV graduates starting this, well, they started last year, have to travel to Edinburgh. And forget the students. It's not the students, it's the families, right? They have to travel to a commencement ceremony all the way over there. You know, it makes no sense. But we don't have a venue large enough to hold that. I could tell you from my experience working at South Texas College back in McAllen, that even their convention center, I remember the college having employee events down at the McAllen Convention Center. And, you know, they can expand that thing. They can make the walls big, expand by tearing down the walls. We barely fit. 2,000 people barely fit in that convention center. There really is no adequate space anywhere in the valley to hold something big. Yeah. But eventually we're going to have to get there. But that's just my opinion, right? So with regards to the bond, sir, where can the voters out there get information? That's one of the things that I wanted to focus on, is where can they go to get information? I know you mentioned in your interview last month that there was a place online they could get it. Is it the BISD website that I've got here on the screen?
Yes. So if you're on that screen, you know, first of all, we have with every time you open it up, right, kind of an advertisement on various things, various activities that go on in this district. Well, you got to close that up, right, to get to the actual page. But when you get to that page, go over to the right-hand side up on top, and it says, 2025 bond election.
Okay,
that's where you got to go. It's on the very front page, up on the upper right-hand side.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Click on that.
That's right.
Yes, click on that, and it takes you to the website that has all the bond information. Now, initially, it has, a description of Proposition A, Proposition B. There's a narrative there as well. But if you go down to the bottom of Proposition B, there'll be a number of blue rectangles. Click on, and by the way, those are worded so that it gives you the information that each of those sites has. Okay. For example, if you wanted to see the information on the schools, go to that square or that rectangle that has the school information. And literally, when you go to the school information, give you
bond
the detail
project
for
by campus. Okay, let me click on it.
Yes. So there's a lot of detail, and also the actual bond amount for each of those projects. Of course, you can go back and take a look at the Citizens Committee report. We have a Q&A, and by the way, we not only have a place where you can ask for a Q&A, then we have another area that has all the answers to all the questions that have been asked. So the website is the best place for you to go. It has a lot of school information. It has a lot of questions that have been answered and responded to. It gives you the detail of the history as well. So that's the place to go.
Yeah, I see here, like for Hannah, you're talking roof replacement, 418,000 square feet, lighting upgrades to the K and L pods. And here you go. You're replacing those fiberglass windows.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have them all over, unfortunately.
Yeah. Campus-wide restroom renovations, plumbing upgrades, cafeteria renovation, installation.
We wanted to be sure people understood, the specifics by school and the amount of dollars that would be dedicated to that school.
And you've got pictures.
Yes.
You've got pictures. So this is where people can go and literally get an itemized listing by campus of everything that y'all are proposing to fix, right? Including pictures.
Yes.
Wow.
We have a few
Let's-
days left. If anybody would like a presentation, we'd love to come make one, whether it be myself, we've got other people that can give you information as well. We're happy to do that. We've been doing that, right? We've gotten some requests to go out and present and give information by school. So we're happy to do that. We're happy to do that as well.
Yeah, I'm looking at Porter here. Yeah, there's HVAC, repair, plumbing, partial
I remember that
parking
school is
lot.
50 years old. I
Oh,
was in
yeah.
the very first class there. Yes.
Yeah, I remember. You know, courtyard, upgrade to elevators. They have elevators there?
In
Is
a
it
few
that new
places, remember
building?
that they've built, they have probably, I'm gonna say about 4 or 5 different areas that were not there when we first started.
Okay.
The
Yeah,
new band
yeah,
hall, right? Yeah, and
right.
that's where the elevators needed, over where we have that 2-story.
Yeah. Let me look at my middle school alma mater here. Okay. HVAC upgrades, roof replacement. What's classroom floor abatement? What does that mean?
That's replacing the floors,
Okay.
taking what's there, cleaning the floors, and then replacing them with new materials, new flooring.
Okay. Yeah, then you're looking at some parking lot improvements. Yeah, especially at Oliveda. Yeah.
A lot of very good information there for everyone, and go visit your school as well. We're happy to assist in any way we can.
All right. Well, definitely for the voters out there, if they want to check what their local neighborhood school will get repaired, they can definitely go over to the website. Any other points of interest here, Dr. Chavez, with regards to the website that you want me to go and point out to individuals out there?
Well, just know that here we had a citizens group study this. We have presented information to community. Of course, there's a lot of information on the website that people can take a look at it. And election is on Tuesday, November the 4th, 7 to 7.
All right. Now, there is early voting going on right now, correct?
Tomorrow will be the last day of that.
Okay.
So yes, if you can get in tomorrow, then you don't have to go on Tuesday. If you miss
Right.
tomorrow and haven't voted, please go on Tuesday.
Now, what's the plan if for some reason the bonds don't pass? What is the plan to
Sure.
still address some of the issues? I mean, obviously, bond passes or doesn't pass, we still have to find a way to fix the air condition, right? We don't want our kids
Sure.
suffering.
Well, and keep in mind here that of course, if the air conditioner breaks, we're committed to repairing it, right? It probably won't get replaced. Yes, if that particular unit cannot be fixed, then that one particular unit. Now we may have 54 of these units, but only one of them that broke down and won't start again, won't be fixed, will be replaced. So we will go to just maintenance really until again the voters decide that yes, they want complete fixes. You want a complete roof change. You want all these windows moved and changed. So that's the situation. That if it doesn't pass, then we're back to just little fixes of whatever breaks down, but it's not going to address the actual needs that our students and teachers have.
Okay. All right. All righty, sir. Well, definitely.
Well, thank you much.
It was very informative. We appreciate you taking the opportunity to, join us tonight. I know that I could probably ask a ton more questions, but we'd be on for another 4 hours. But
No, thank you for inviting me tonight.
definitely it was a great opportunity to get some clarification, kind of clear out some of the myths that have been floating out there with regards to the election and the monies, not just the monies that are being proposed, but also the monies that the district may have been entitled to in years past for whatever reason. But as you mentioned, everyone, the election is on Tuesday. You've got one more day starting tomorrow to vote, or in early voting, but after tomorrow you'll have to wait till Tuesday. Regardless of where you are with regards to a position on for the bonds or against the bonds, it is everybody's responsibility as citizens to go out there and vote. And let's keep in mind that we're not just voting with regards to taxes. It's about the future of our kids and what kind of education we want to provide. It's simply not enough to say that you want to take your child elsewhere. You know, everybody's got a choice. Everybody's got a choice where their child can attend their school. But the reality of it is that some of us can't afford to send our kids to private school. And when it comes to the charter schools, we know that they don't take everybody. They work by a lottery. So we still have public schools, and we have to find a way to fund them. And this is an important election, and I hope that everybody takes an opportunity either tomorrow or on Tuesday to go cast out your vote. Dr. Chavez, thank you, and
Thank
you're
you.
welcome back at any time, election or no election.
Great. No, I appreciate that. Thank you so much for
Nope.
the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.